Ronaldo's trial and rise at Sporting Lisbon. A 12-year-old's fight. Picture a 12-year-old boy stepping off a plane in Lisbon, a tiny bag slung over his shoulder, heart pounding like a drum. That's Cristiano Ronaldo in 1997, leaving the dusty streets of Madeira for the first time, chasing a dream that felt as big as the ocean he'd just crossed. No mom to tuck him in, no dad's unsteady voice to cheer him on. Just a kid, alone, walking into Sporting Lisbon's training ground with nothing but hope and a scrappy ragball in his past. This is the story of his trial, the gut-wrenching struggles he faced, and how a small boy's raw talent turned heads, setting him on the path to greatness. It's not a fairy tale. It's real, rough, and unforgettable. At 12, Ronaldo wasn't ready to leave home, but he had to. Madeira had given him Nacional, a taste of something bigger, but it couldn't lift his family from the cramped house or his dad's drinking. When Sporting Lisbon called for a trial, his mom, Maria, saw it as their shot. I sat him down, she'd recall, tears staining her voice, and said, "Go, son. This is for all of us." He packed light, 2 faded shirts, 1 pair of patched pants, no proper shoes, just a boy who'd never been beyond his island's cliffs. The flight to Lisbon was his first, the city a maze of noise and strangers. I was scared, he'd admit later, like the world swallowed me whole. Arriving at Sporting's Academy, he felt smaller than ever. The dorm was cold, a concrete box with creaky beds and boys who eyed him like an outsider. His island accent, rough, choppy, drew snickers from the city kids. He'd call home that first night, voice cracking through the static, "Mom, I miss you." Maria held back sobs, whispering, "Be strong, Cristiano." Alone in the dark, he clutched the pillow, fighting tears, wondering if he'd made a mistake. 12 years old, no family, no safety net, just a dream that felt too heavy to carry. The trial started rough. Sporting's coaches took one look at him, skinny, all knees and elbows, barely 5 feet tall, and shook their heads. "Too small." One muttered, "He'll get crushed." Ronaldo heard it, felt it like a punch. Back in Madeira, he'd outrun bigger boys barefoot. But here in Lisbon, he was a speck among giants. Kids with real boots, real training, real confidence. "I thought they'd send me home," he'd say, eyes distant, like I wasn't enough. His hands shook as he laced up borrowed shoes. Soles worn thin, laces knotted to stay on. He stepped onto the pitch, heart in his throat, knowing this was it, sink or swim. The first day was brutal. Drills tested speed, strength, control. He stumbled, got shoved, felt the sting of being out of place. The other boys smirked, some laughed outright. His accent tripped over words, marking him as the island kid. Nights were worse. Alone in the dorm, he'd replay every miss, every fall, the voices in his head whispering, "You don't belong here." Hunger gnawed, not just from the meager meals Sporting provided, but from missing his mom's bread, his siblings' chatter. "I wanted to run back," he'd confess, but something wouldn't let me. Then came the second day, and everything changed. Ronaldo got the ball, and the pitch became his. Those skinny legs moved like lightning. Left, right, a blur of speed no one saw coming. He dribbled past boys twice his weight, flicking the ball with a precision that didn't match his ragged look. He danced through them, a coach said, jaw dropping, like they weren't even there. A quick turn, a burst, and he slammed a shot into the net. Hard, clean, impossible for a kid so small. The smirks faded, the laughter stopped. "Too small?" Another coach muttered, "That's no ordinary boy." Over 3 days, he turned doubters into believers. His technique wasn't polished. Years of kicking rags on uneven streets had made it wild, unrefined, but it was electric. He'd dodge tackles with a twist, outpace runners with no shoes could match, and strike with a force that belied his frame. He had no fear. A scout remembered, just pure instinct. By the end, coaches huddled, nodding. They saw it, a diamond in the rough, small but blazing. "We knew then," one said, "he was special." Sporting signed him up, not with fanfare, but with a bed, some food money, and a chance to train. It was the bare minimum, but for Ronaldo, it was the world. Life at Sporting's Academy wasn't easy. The stipend was tiny, barely enough for meals, nothing for extras. He slept in a dorm with boys who'd once mocked him, ate plain rice and soup, and wore secondhand gear that didn't fit. I'd hide my socks, he'd laugh later, they had holes. Training was grueling, hours of drills, sprints, bruises, but he thrived. He'd stay late, kicking against walls till dark, perfecting every move. I had to be better, he'd say, for me, for them. Missing home cut deep. He'd write letters to Maria, pencils smudging with tears. "I'll make it, Mom. I promise." She'd send back prayers, scraps of love on paper. At 12, he was a boy carrying a family's hopes, fighting loneliness with every goal. But on the field, he was alive, his speed a weapon, his technique a shield. Coaches saw a kid who didn't just play. He burned, a fire lit by Madeira streets, now blazing in Lisbon. This wasn't the end. It was the start, a trial that broke him down and built him up, the moment a small boy stepped into his destiny.